Hi everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
My name is Sally.
So Rich is still under the weather this week, unfortunately. And I was actually meant to be seeing my friend Matt tonight to go to Punk Rock Factory, but I've not been. That sounds like it's just a fun, soft play. If anyone's not heard of them, they are a punk rock band who do covers. And yeah, I was meant to be seeing him tonight, but I've been under the weather too, to be honest. So, Matt was one of the first people who played on the PSP with me when we were nippers. So hopefully he'll be on the podcast at some point. But then I thought, who else can I find to replace Rich for a week until we get back to normal programming? Then, the next resident video games expert in Horsforth, Sally Farron.
That's me.
Yes. I'm someone who could probably count the amount of video games they've played in their life on both hands, I'm guessing.
Probably just one hand would do. Yeah.
And you haven't even got any thumbs. It's just... but you are here, and because you're on the couch. I've just started recording, you didn't even know this was going to happen. No.
Got a blanket on.
Yeah, you got a blanket. We've just burped you. Sounds weird. And yeah, so I thought that let's try and do a video game podcast with somebody that doesn't like video games very much, and let's see how that goes. I think it's a good experiment.
Yeah, we can try.
Now, I was thinking the best way of doing that was to try and find something that we both like, or that we cross over with a little bit, that we both enjoy quite a bit, I would say. You probably more than me. And that is talking about murder mysteries.
Yes.
Ooh. And I thought we could do a bit of a fun exercise, I think, where I talk about some murder mystery video games that I've played, give you a synopsis, and also a random age rating from a random consumer on the internet somewhere. And you can... So I've picked 5 out. These are all games that I've played over, say, the last 10, 15 years. And I'll give you the synopsis, and then you pick the one that you think you'd be most likely to play.
Okay.
So I did kind of enforce you to try and play one last night because it's a very quick playthrough, and we'll probably start with that one in a minute. But also, I thought it'd be quite nice because we're at a murder mystery evening here. We're sitting here. I've got my Estrella. You've got some fruit pastels.
I'm hoping there's not a dead body in the house somewhere.
Only slugs.
There's 2 sleeping children upstairs.
Yeah, they're fine. They're okay. I hope. You made that weird now.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Not used to this podcasting malarkey yet. It's okay. I talked about some children died on some dodgems the other week. It's fine.
We did have that fish go missing once. That might still be in the house somewhere.
We had 4 fish, and of the 4 fish, at one point
we only had 3.
Yeah, and it went completely missing, like out of the bowl. But it can't have gone anywhere. I don't understand.
That is still in the house somewhere, I reckon.
What took the fish? Which is fucking the most crazy mystery that we've ever had happen in the Farron household.
We didn't solve it, so maybe we're not very good at this murder mystery stuff.
Well, we're always shit at guessing who actually is the person that does it. Like, I am always... Because the thing is about a murder mystery is that when you watch it on TV, you always want to get in there early to sound clever, that you know what's going on.
No, you do.
Yeah.
It does frustrate me, like within the first 30 seconds, they did it.
Because...
What evidence do you have, Fazz? Well, I don't have any, but I just want to get a guess in. Well,
it's as much a hunch as anyone else has when you watch the shows and things. What is it about murder mysteries that you like?
I like the big reveal at the end. I like them, and I like them explaining how it's done. The thing that I used to like about Jonathan Creek, for example, is the kind of how it was done, because it was always something that was thought to be impossible, and they showed that it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in this murder mystery evening, we're having our main courses, which is the video game synopsis, but then in between, and Jonathan Creek is one of them, we're going to have a little chat about the things that you like about those shows, the TV shows. So you get your double helpings here, guys. You get your video games and also a little bit of TV about murder mysteries. So let's have a little think about how we're going to do this. I'm going to give you the video game that we have had I've played this week for the first time, and I picked this up for the Switch. a few months ago, and it's actually a double cart, so it's called 80 Days / Overboard. So the game is Overboard, and this is weird because this is the second time I've reviewed a game called Overboard on this podcast.
Not the same game?
No, different games. Really annoying that they've called it the same name.
Are they allowed to do that?
One has an exclamation mark at the end of it.
Oh, so it's technically different.
And Overboard was called Overboard, the pirate game that I've played in the PlayStation 1 early in the podcast that I really enjoyed. That is called Shipwreckers in the United States, whereas Overboard is just called Overboard with an exclamation mark. So this was made by Inkle Games. Quite good, cool, fun name. In Cambridge, which is a tedious link to something later on. And they made it in 2021, and like I say, it was a double cart on the Switch. So I'm going to give you the synopsis of that game, even though you kind of know this one. So we're not going to lie to you here, guys, on the podcast. Sally's already sort of seen this one, but I think it's quite a good thing to go through the synopsis and then also give you a random rating from the internet. So the synopsis: Veronica Villancy murders her husband on a boat during a trip to New York. The ending changes based on the player's choices throughout the game. The player must prevent other passengers from finding out that Veronica has murdered her husband. Throughout the 8-hour journey, the player can visit various areas throughout the ship and talk with other passengers. The player can choose their own responses. This affects the game's ending as the story progresses. And I'm going to give you a quick rating then. So this is just a random person on the internet. I picked it up. For a game centred around murder and lying to save your own skin, Overboard feels pretty tame considering the subject matter. What might qualify as an evil or psychopathic in our world merely feels naughty here. Veronica doesn't seem to have any noble motives, but it's easy to inhabit her shoes. In other words, the game makes it easy to play the villain, as long as you're fine playing the villain. Mm-hmm. So, you had a little dabble with that last night.
Yeah.
Within about 17 minutes, you were like, I'm done here.
That's pretty much just my limit on video games anyway. That's like 4 tracks of Mario Kart. Like, that's the, like...
yeah, pretty much, yeah. I was sure that you'd be like, oh, this is intriguing. Because I've been playing it this week, and I've probably put about 3 hours into it, I'd say, maybe. And it's clear that there are, at the end of the game, there's 3 different ways that you can win, and this isn't giving any of the game away for anybody that wants to go away and play it, and I would highly recommend people to do this. You aim to get away with murder, but there's also other factors that you want to try and get the life insurance from your husband, and also try and implicate somebody else as well. So there is a maximum amount of success you can have. I still haven't had that maximum amount of success in 3 hours. I keep on going back into the boat and trying different scenarios, and there's so many different options. Something that feels really innocuous, where you're like, oh, come into this room to a steward or something like that, or you not hiding a piece of evidence at the right time of day, really presents itself later on in this meeting where everyone's trying to accuse you of murder and you're trying to escape. So I really thought you'd be into it, but you seem to be like, no, I've seen it all in one playthrough.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was fine. It was quite enjoyable. It was very easy to play. You just had to click one button. But I felt like positive in my choices. Like, although I do regret having the nap, choosing to have the nap at that point. I think maybe I got too much into her head, and I was like, well, I've just murdered my husband. I think I might need a sleep. But that wasn't the right thing to do. That was
a very stereotypical thing for you to do. Like, one thing that you do, I would say, really well is nap.
Yeah.
Like, you do choose to avoid conflict and the world.
Once you explained to me...
sleepy.
Once you explained to me, like, that if I was checking somebody's pockets, that I might want to just not leave the stuff there and do something with it.
And I was like, you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna leave my husband's jacket in the smoker room.
Well, I was thinking in my head, I was like, well, he's dead, so why do I need his things? But I didn't think about the fact that there could be evidence, so clearly I'm not the best person to try and get away with murder.
It makes me feel quite confident that I'm less likely to get murdered because you're not very good at it.
Yeah. The game itself, I can get it. I can understand why you would want to keep going back into it. I told you it reminded me of a game that we used to play at school in my IT lessons at school.
One of your many video games that you've played.
Which may suggest why my IT skills are not great if this was the level of IT lessons that I was having at school. It was this really old game where you had to like, it was set in our school, and you'd have to like go along a corridor, and then it'd be like, right, you either need to pick up a pencil or eat a sandwich or something like that. And
I'm eating the sandwich. Like, I'm not fucking
it was
picking
all
a
kind of
pencil.
set around our school, and I messaged my friends about it the other day when I remembered about the game, and one of my friends said to me, "Oh yeah, it kind of got to the point where I think you died at the end if you didn't eat the sandwich."
What?
Yeah. Like, it got like that bad that if you didn't eat the sandwich or find a drink, you had to find a vending machine and get a drink. But then you didn't have any money to put in the vending machine.
Oh.
And you had to, like, type your choice. It basically reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Very
So
much
we found the video game that you really enjoyed, but...
No, I didn't enjoy it.
Oh, right,
I never
okay.
won it. And that was, like...
Because you were picking the pencil rather than...
our whole IT lesson. And now I don't know how to use spreadsheets, so...
Was that a primary school, though?
No, secondary school.
Really? Jesus.
Year 9.
Yeah, that is maybe why. Like, maybe why the VLOOKUPs don't work anymore. Like, because I remember doing that kind of thing in like when I was like 7.
I think the IT teacher designed the game himself.
Ah, right, okay. So it was just swag, was it? A show off. Well, I mean, I remember playing Choose Your Own Adventures. It was something like called...
Oh, that's what Choose Your Own Adventures.
It was like Pip, and you had like a little... It was like before Roomba Hoovers existed. It was like a little Roomba robot, and you programmed it, and then it went on its own little adventure, and then you paired it up with like a game on the PC. And I mean, I use PC with inverted commas. They were like very old computers, but yeah, like, you know.
But yeah, no, it was getting back to the actual game.
I'm being brought back to order in my own podcast.
It was. I can see why you would like it. Being not a gamer myself, that was my attention span gone then after that point. So
fair enough. Well, let's pair this game with then. I'm thinking like a nautical feel, and one of your favourite things that you like to watch as a murder mystery that I've seen you watch is Death in Paradise.
Oh yeah.
So Death in Paradise, a BBC what comedy drama, but then also I mean, when you say comedy,
I'm not sure.
Well,
it's
yeah,
light-hearted.
It's light-hearted, isn't it?
Murder.
So the synopsis then: a detective inspector from London investigates a crime on the Caribbean island of San Marie. Satisfied with his work, his superiors permanently assign him to the island's police force. Now that's the very first few series. So I'm going to ask you an important question here. Of this is like a James Bond Z list. So these are all the actors that have played the detective who is the main protagonist of this show. And if you've seen it, great. If you haven't, don't worry about it. You're not missing out too much. Although Sally thinks, it's got spin-offs now. It's got Beyond Paradise, something which is like setting, is it Cornwall?
Cornwall or Devon, yeah.
And I'm going to excite you here. There's now one called what is it? Something blah 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 Paradise, and it's set in Australia, and it has Ardal O'Hanlon in it. And
why have I not seen that?
It's not out yet. It's out next year.
Oh, I am excited.
I've treated you on this podcast to an exclusive
he wasn't
reveal.
my favourite detective, but
which goes back to the question then. So it's kind of like you get these very middle of the road British / British Isle actors. So you've got Ben Miller, who's the first 3 series.
He was my least favourite.
Chris Marshall was 3 series. Ardal O'Hanlon 3 series. Ralph Little 3 series. They just have like a lifespan, don't they? And then the new one, which is only just coming this Christmas, and is going to be like the next.
It's
inspector.
a Christmas special.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Don Gillet or Don. I guess it's Gillet. Gillet.
Like the jacket.
Gillet. Yeah, like the jacket.
Okay.
Yeah, like the life jacket. Yeah. So who was your favourite?
Chris Marshall was my.
Chris
favourite.
Marshall. Is he your?
Yeah, I already liked him before he started in that programme.
The man from the BT adverts?
No, from My Family.
Oh, My Family, yes.
Yeah.
He's in My Family, isn't he? My Family. And Love Actually?
Yes, he is in Love Actually, but he's not got a great character in Love Actually.
Yeah, he's a wanker, isn't he? Like,
I wouldn't use that word.
Did he go to America or something?
I can't remember. Let's get some girls.
Go to Vegas. Yeah, exactly. Maybe he just got lost on the way.
He felt very much like a side character in that film.
But everyone's kind of a side character in Love Actually.
But he was my favourite detective.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right, so we're going to get back onto video games now then. And this is... I'm not trying to make it get too dark for you, but... It's quite hard.
Because it has to be light-hearted murder.
Well, that's the thing. Yes, it does. So I don't think that you'll like this next one. But
okay.
I have to talk about games that I know about and I've played, and things that have that I remember and I remember enjoying. But not all of them are like Hyde murder mysteries. Okay. But don't worry, we'll get back to your TV shows and stuff soon. So this one's called Heavy Rain, and it is quite heavy in tone. Okay. You just have to bear with me. So 2010, I played this on the PlayStation 3. It's probably a bit of a point and click adventure. Most of these games actually are kind of point and clicky. You don't do too much action and things, but there is points in this where if someone lunges at you, say, like with a knife or something, you press square to avoid them. There are different types of what you call quick time events. So I'm really sorry, this is quite sad, this story, but you just have to bear with it. So the day after celebrating his son Jason's 10th birthday, Ethan Mars and his family go shopping. Jason and Ethan are hit by a car. Jason, his son, passes away, and Ethan falls into a 6-month coma. After he wakes from the coma, Ethan, blaming himself for Jason's death, separates from his wife and moves into a small suburban duplex while experiencing mental trauma and blackouts. Yeah. 2 years later, Ethan blacks out of the park and he's with his other... I mean, that's really jolly. Blacks out of the park with his son, Sean, with his other son. When he wakes up, he discovers that Sean has been kidnapped by the origami killer, a serial killer, I know, whose MO consists of abducting young boys during the fall season, drowning them in rainwater, and leaving an orchid on their chest and an origami figure nearby.
For what reason?
Well, you'd have to play the game, but you will never play that game. It's frankly, no. I would say that's probably terrifying for you. Yeah, that's it's probably a bit too far for you. I think that's the darkest the games get.
Did you enjoy the game?
Yeah. It was.
Did you win the game?
Again, so there's lots of different ways that you can either win or fail in this game. Actually, so
So the boy dies.
It can. It can be. It can be one of the outcomes. Well, it's a video game. It doesn't really kind of show it too much. That is he drowns in rainwater. I think it's insinuated. But you play Ethan, and you can either be the hero or you can fail, or other people the boy can get saved. Ethan can die. There's loads of different ways you can finish this game. So that's what's really cool about it, is that you can come back to it. And I think there was a mechanism where you could actually go back sort of like a few hours and make different decisions to help you then get a different ending for the game as well. So it was a really cool game, and for its time, it was one of the first games to kind of do this. Yeah, so nearly 15 years old now. One of the ratings then from a consumer. So somebody put, would they be okay playing Heavy Rain as long as they have a proper windbreaker and umbrella to let them play? Ha ha ha, lol. No, seriously, there's dismemberment off screen and you're pretty sure the origami killer is a bad man. So that was your rating. So I mean, I put that one in there thinking it probably won't be for you. No. But I remember really enjoying that game, and I'm sure there's people listening out there as well.
It sounds like a very clever game. That sounds a lot cleverer than the game that we were playing the other night.
Interesting.
So nice. You must have put a lot of thought and effort into that.
Yeah. I mean,
it always worries me, the people that come up with these ideas, the fact that they have these thoughts in their brains.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
That doesn't surprise me. I think that you think that they must be serial killers, but lots of people have, these thoughts where you can be, I have thoughts where I'm worried about these things happening to me and my family or whatever, it's like, oh, I've got 2 boys at home. What if the man with the origami comes along? It doesn't take much to stretch that to be like, oh, I could just write about it. So you don't have to be a murderer, I don't think, to have murder in your game. But
how would you rate that game out of 10?
That's a good question. Look at you podcasting. I didn't even prompt that. Let's do it. Let's get this. I would give Heavy Rain, from what I remember, I haven't played it for years, probably an 8 out of 10. And I think it was, at the time, one of those games that people soured on a little bit, because I don't think they necessarily, because it was quite dark, and I don't think people held it in great light afterwards, because there's been other games like that, and there's been one actually recently, and I'll tell you about this, called Until Dawn, that is a similar sort of game where it's a load of people go to a house and it turns into a bit of a murder mystery sort of horror story. But that got released in 2017. They're bringing that back out this year, charging you £60 to to play it again as a remastered version.
£60
£60 for a video game that only got released 7 years ago. So you can imagine the graphics haven't been like a massive, you're not going from a Mega Drive to a PlayStation 5. You're literally going from a PlayStation 4 to a PlayStation 5, and people are charging them for that. So, I mean, you can see what my review is. I'd rather pick up Heavy Rain for £3 on my PlayStation 3. So, I'm sure you would for our house funds as well. No, so I'm actually paying the mortgage. Right, let's jump into a light-hearted TV show then. So let's talk about Jonathan Creek. So,
okay.
So if I give you it's a tiny little synopsis. You've already jumped in on Jonathan Creek a little bit. So a magician teams up with an investigative journalist to solve confusing murder cases and impossible crimes. So before you started speaking about it I forgot that he was a magician. Jonathan Creek is a
and there was
character.
another magician in the show.
Yeah,
as well. The
was,
American guy.
That was really weird, wasn't it? Because he was the thing I found weird about Jonathan Creek was that they did spend a lot of time on his relationships with that dude and also his female sort of companion as well. Whereas I think most of the enjoyment in the show is probably Alan Davies just being Alan Davies, quite affable and funny. And also the solving of the crime, wasn't it, really? That was probably the bit that was the best part, I think. So we're going to do the same sort of thing that I did before with the protagonist for Death in Paradise. What about the female companion, which is your favourite from Jonathan Creek? So you've got Carolyn Quentin. Before you just jump, because I know you're going to, I bet you're going to be like, oh, the 90s, that feels vibey. I quite like Carolyn Quentin. But there was also Julia Sawala, is that how you saying it? Sheridan Smith, and then someone called Sarah Alexander, who
I don't remember her.
She's I can't remember her either. I think she was really quite late on, to be honest. It was 2016, for a couple of specials, I think. But the main ones then. So Carolyn Quentin, Julia Swala, and Sheridan Smith.
Carolyn Quentin. I preferred the first. The first.
So yeah. That's fair enough. That's cool. I really like Sheridan Smith, and she's a really good actress. So I was like the ones.
Well, I think she is too. I'm not saying she's not. I just prefer. You asked me which one I preferred, and I preferred the Jonathan Creek.
You heard it here
Caroline
first.
Quentin.
Sally Farron thinks Sheridan Smith shit.
I didn't say that.
Well, it's out there now. So that was a little palate cleanser after that difficult story of Heavy Rain. Let's jump back into the murder mystery video games for our third murder mystery video game. So this one's not as heavy, but it's a very similar game, very similar time that it came out, 2011. Same style of game, a bit of a point and click. You do move your character around in this, and you investigate crime scenes and pick up evidence in crime scenes to help you try and understand what has happened. It's usually a murder, and also you make the choice of what evidence you're going to use and who you're going to actually accuse for it as well, for the murder. So it's called LA Noire.
I've heard of that.
Oh, have you? Excellent. It's made by Rockstar Games, and I'm going to quiz you what kind of games, or which games do Rockstar Games make?
Guitar Hero.
No.
Oh.
That would make sense though. That is good. Yeah.
I'm out of answers now.
No. So they make all the Grand Theft Auto games and the Red Dead Redemption games. So they are the biggest gaming developers on the planet, pretty much. That is everybody's waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6 to drop. They're going to just print money when Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm going to tell you now, live on the podcast, I will be buying Grand Theft Auto 6 when it comes out next year, and that will probably be £60. But I'm just pre-warning.
For which of those boxes?
For which? Sally has just pointed towards the video game section of the front room. So in here, I've got an Xbox Series S, a PlayStation 3, a Wii, a Switch, and a PlayStation 2. People listening will know that only one of those can kind of barely run Grand Theft Auto 6, which would be
the white one.
Yeah, the Xbox Series X.
Okay.
S even. It's not even an X. So there is quite a lot of debate at the moment. A lot of people are wanting to buy a PlayStation 5 because of the fact that it can run. It'll do a good job of running GTA 6, and that's a lot of things at the moment. Is people feel like they're getting forced into buying more expensive consoles to sort of buy games to run better on them. Whereas I'm quite okay with my Xbox Series S will still look great. It just won't be anywhere near the level of a PlayStation 5 Pro, which costs about £700.
No, you won't be buying one.
No, I didn't think so. I just sort of float it out there and just sort of see. I knew what the reaction might be. Anyway, so back to LA Noire then. Following the end of World War II, Cole Phelps, a US Pacific campaign veteran who was awarded the Silver Star for his bravery during the Battle of Sugarloaf Hill, returns to Los Angeles, California to live with his family while taking on work as a patrol officer in the LAPD. In 1947, working with partner Ralph Dunn, Phelps successfully and almost single-handedly solves a murder case, impressing the captain of the homicide department, James Donnelly, who helps promote him to detective. So, I am going to give you the rating of this one because that might sound like quite a nice story, but then the rating might sort of colour it a little bit differently. I have completed this game and it is really good, but definitely not for anyone under 15. The game has loads of brutal, bloody crime scenes which are over the top. Oh. There is also frequent use of strong language, including fuck and motherfucker, and there is one scene of nudity which is uncensored. Free roam is fine for anyone 7+, because you cannot kill civilians, you can only drive around and run around, but missions for 15+ due to nudity, extreme language, and very strong bloody violence. So...
why would you let anybody 7+ anywhere near that game? That's a strange thing to say. Having a nearly 7-year-old son...
Yeah, I picked that up as well, where it was like, so what you're going to do, will your kid in to do the driving around? Like,
you could do that on Mario Kart. What's going on there?
It's just not like, I'm going to bring my child in to be my chauffeur to these crime scenes.
These reviews?
Oh, just randomly, like different sort of websites and stuff, where it was like, oh, I just typed in like LA Noire age rating, and these are random reviews that came up. I mean, they're not like, I don't think that person works for... like the British sort of board for like, age ratings or anything.
I don't like the graphic side of it then, of the like crime scenes. However, I like the thought of there being different crimes to solve.
Yeah. It's really cool because you make your way, you kind of get promoted through the police department, so the crimes become, they evolve into something bigger, and the story around you becomes bigger as well. So it's really cool because you start off as this patrol officer that kind of happen across a crime scene, and then you solve that murder, and then it's like, oh, we're going to make you into it.
Do you start to notice like kind of things? So like if you've done one crime scene, then you go to the one and like, oh, actually that was important in the last one, so maybe that's something that I need to
That's
do.
a good question. I don't know if they are kind of linked a little bit, but I think that you as a player probably get better, like as a gamer. I think that you do start to think, I'm going to look at that more or understand that a little bit more. You also do some what's the word I'm looking for? Where you ask questions for somebody in a police station.
What interrogation?
See, this is why I miss Rich. Like, as in when he's like,
I know Rich.
No. You know what I mean by that is when I did the podcast by myself last week. Like, as in, I can't even think of a word for interrogation. Like, as in, so, and this is why I love you. So you interrogate people, and you can sort of see from their facial expressions and things, and almost you have to judge if they're lying or not to you, which is really cool.
That's quite cool.
So yeah, it's that I would say is probably on a par with Heavy Rain. It's a different type of game, I think, and it's probably got more. You can dig into it a little bit more. The story is good, but it kind of peters out a little bit at the end.
Is there like only one way to solve each crime? Like in the what was it called? All Aboard game.
Yeah, Overboard
game, not All Aboard. That's trains.
That's how I get on a train in 2024.
I forgot what I was saying. In that game, there's lots of different choices and different scenarios you can make. In this game, is it a case of you have to make the right choice to be able to progress to the next one?
I think that you do. It's a little bit more linear. I think that you can get it wrong and still end up at in the right place, if that makes sense. Yeah. This is just completely from memory. So I do have the game somewhere sitting around because I intend to play it again. But I don't think it is as open as Overboard. Look at these good questions coming in from you. I know.
I do know know what I'm
Look,
talking
you're paying
about.
attention and not napping. I'm super impressed by this. So let's jump back into a little palate cleanser again, and we're going to talk about another TV show that we have watched very recently, and we can't do any spoilers for this because it's so recent. Yeah. Ludwig. So it is a BBC. What was it? It is a comedy drama.
I think it's quite funny.
Yeah, it's meant to be
dark comedy.
Dark comedy, isn't it? So it's starring David Mitchell and Anna Maxwell Martin from Motherland. So the synopsis: can accidental detective John Ludwig Taylor crack the biggest puzzle of his life, finding his mystic brother? Oh, it even says cryptic comedy drama. There you go.
Mystic or missing brother?
Yeah, missing. Did I say mystic?
You said mystic.
Well, he's kind of a bit.
Yeah, but I think it is missing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole point of the show, and that's not a spoiler.
It's because I read cryptic and missing and put them together. So, yeah. What did you think of Ludwig when we've been watching it? So we've just finished it last week, or the first series at least.
I very much enjoyed Ludwig. It had exactly what I want in a programme like that, is that there's some sort of kind of puzzle to solve and it gets explained at the end of the episode. What is a little bit more complex about this series is that obviously there's like a bigger puzzle that extends over the whole series that's kind of linked from episode to episode. But
Can I like this, but also think it's shit?
Well, you did.
Yeah, which is why I'm asking, because I enjoyed my time with it. At the time, at the end of the series, I said I won't watch it again. I still might not watch it, but I enjoyed my time with it. And I think I just enjoyed my time with you and watching it. But the overall idea of the solving of the crime is shit.
You spotted some holes, didn't you, in there? You can't give any spoilers.
No.
You did plot, and I hadn't spotted those, and was blissfully unaware of them. And then you almost ruined it for me. I would say by pointing those out.
I thought it would be my fault that it's shit. Yeah, no.
But I still did enjoy it, and I will watch it again.
It's my fault that it's not very good. I get that. I mean, I just don't think it's clever compared to the Jonathan Creek, for example.
It's no Jonathan Creek. It's no Death in Paradise.
And that's the thing. I feel like I enjoy Death in Paradise more.
You don't enjoy Death in Paradise.
Well, okay.
You sit there and critique it the whole time. In fact, I often watch it when you're not in for that very reason.
but oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. I don't. I was about to say I don't ruin all of your TV, but I think I do ruin all of your TV. I try not to. I've been really. Since Little Sheldon?
Young Sheldon.
Since Young Sheldon's finished and you've been watching that and we've been rewatching Big Bang, I have a newfound appreciation for Big Bang Theory compared to Young Sheldon, whereas everyone gives Young Sheldon all its flowers and thinks it's amazing. You said you cried at the end and thought it was amazing. When I've watched Young Sheldon, so I'm here playing on my PSP or Switch and I'm watching Young Sheldon over the top of it, I think Young Sheldon is just so boring. There's nothing happening, whereas Big Bang Theory is genuinely quite funny. It has that Friends vibe to it that, for our generation, like almost like, and that made it sound like we were too young for Friends, but anyway.
You may be.
No, there's only like a year and a half between us. It's not that bad. But anyway, yeah, I don't mean to critique your TV. Sorry.
Let's move on.
Oh, God. In trouble now. Right, okay. So, let's move on to another video game. And I think, of all the video games, I think this one's probably a little bit left field. But I think you might be interested in this one. So, this one is called... You can eat a fruit pasta, that's fine.
Thank you, whilst you talk.
Yeah, this is quite a long synopsis anyway. So, this is called The Wolf Among Us. And it's by
That's funny.
Yeah.
We'll play... Because we've just been playing What's the Time, Mr. Wolf?
Oh, God. This is our lives. We've just been playing What's the Time, Mr. Wolf with our children before bed. It's fun and games in the Farron household. So, it's by a company called Telltale Games, and they tend to do, again, it's almost like a comic booky sort of you do more reading and watching images than you do actually interacting with the game, probably. So I remember playing this when I first got my Xbox One, which was the last console that I had. This was one of the first games that I got in 2014 for it. I got it on Xbox Live Gold, which you've no idea what that means, but...
Is that the black one?
No, that's PlayStation 3.
Do you still have the Xbox?
No,
One?
I sold it just because it was like, if I was going to get an Xbox Series S, I didn't really need to have an Xbox One anymore.
Okay.
So the synopsis then. Excuse me, big burp there. I got burped myself there from my Australia. In the game, the player controls Bigby Wolf, the sheriff? I can't speak anymore. The sheriff of Fabletown.
Oh, so it's not an actual wolf?
No.
Oh.
So he's the big bad wolf.
I'm already disappointed.
He's the big bad wolf from... Well, no, he looks like Wolverine, basically.
All right, okay.
So he's kind of half wolf, half man. Yeah. So, Fabletown, a clandestine community within the 1980s New York City, consisting of various fantastical creatures and characters from fairy tales and folklore, and must investigate a series of mysterious murders, the first ones to occur in Fabletown for a long time. After Bigby Wolf receives a call from Mr. Toad, Bigby protects a prostitute from an intoxicated woodsman. Before she departs, she tells him he's not as bad as everyone says he is. Later that night, Bigby and Snow White find the woman's head left on Woodland's doorstep. Remember, and it is kind of comic booky though. Clues left with the head identify her as Faith, a fable from, I don't know where that is, Alleluia, that would make sense. Deputy Mayor Ichabod Crane orders him and Snow to investigate her death. Okay. The age rating. Cool, but this game has partial nudity and bad language and a lot of smoking and a lot of violence, and it's okay for a teenager, but not a child under 13.
Okay.
What do you think of that when I read that synopsis?
That sounded a lot more interesting than any of the previous games.
Yeah. Okay. So this is based on a comic book series called The Fables, and there is a sequel coming out at the end of this year, maybe next year. I think it's just called The Wolf Among Us 2 at the moment. But I really, 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 really enjoyed The Wolf Among Us when I played it, and it was probably the first time where... So Telltale Games, they did a Game of Thrones game, and also they've done quite a lot of Walking Dead games where you've kind of got this comic booky vibe, but serious sort of subject of a zombie apocalypse, and also, you know, medieval fun and games with kings and queens. So they do a lot of gore and violence and serious things and nudity, but they present it in this comic book way. It really works with The Wolf Among Us because it is like a dark sort of storyline, but they do a great job of presenting it on a video game. I loved it.
What do you actually have to do? Like, are you...
So you're Bigby Wolf and you're investigating all these murders. So effectively...
How do you investigate? Like, are you having to physically, like, walk places and go places?
I think that, from what I remember again, it is just and this is what I mean about being quite text-based, that you go from scene to scene.
Okay.
And then you read through the text.
A bit like Overboard.
Yeah, effectively. And you judge people's reactions. Okay. And you do find some evidence, but it's mostly on people's reactions. So, for example, in that first scene where the intoxicated woodsman, and I believe it was a prostitute called Faith, or the fable called Faith even, you kind of have to work out what's going on there. Like when you first get there, because I think you trust the woodsman, and he's normally been a good friend, and all of a sudden he's drunk and he's beating up, you know, this woman, and it's like, so you know, like no one knows what goes on behind closed doors, Sally, and you wouldn't have known, and you know, but you have to have a bit of a keen eye and go, actually, this man.
I like the sound of that. I wouldn't play it because of like the violent-y, like gory part of it.
No,
but that does sound interesting.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna have our last little palate cleanser here before the last video game we're gonna talk about, and this is something that, I mean, you know, how many people listen to this podcast every single week? Probably between, say, 20 and 30 people on average. So I'm not going to be like, oh, you know, cracking out like an amazing review for one of the biggest TV shows on the planet at the moment and be like, oh, here's some reveals. Only murders in the building. Mm-hmm. So I'll read the synopsis. 3 strangers share an obsession with true crime and suddenly find themselves wrapped up in one. When a grisly death occurs in their exclusive Upper West Side apartment building, The trio suspects murder and employs their precise knowledge of true crime to investigate the truth. Perhaps even more explosive are the lies they tell one another. Soon, the endangered trio comes to realise a killer might be living among them as they race to decipher the mounting clues before it's too late. I bloody love Only Murders in the Building.
You do. However, I think your love has increased over the series.
Okay.
What is this, series 4 now?
Series 4.
I think the first series you thought it was alright.
Yeah.
You weren't raving about it. Second series, I don't think you were loving that at all. Third series, you're like...
Oh, right, okay.
more
I didn't
interested.
realise this was the case. It's
This
interesting.
series, you've been really excited every time I've said...
Excited about it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, it's Tuesday, do you want to watch it? You're like, oh, yeah! Like...
I mean, again, so this is where good storytelling isn't necessarily all about what's going on with the crimes and things. So, and this is kind of like, and I know you sort of say, oh, I pick holes in Death in Paradise and things and stuff. I don't mind Death in Paradise because you like the characters and you like the setting, and I'm not bothered about the crimes are stupid, and it's like, how many people get murdered on the island of San Marie? Do you know what I mean? And it's like, whereas with this as well, I think they're clever with the writers, with how they're presenting the crimes and stuff. I would say this series is by far the worst in terms of like the idea of how it's actually getting solved, but it's probably the best
You
for
love Steve Martin.
Martin Shaw, Selena Gomez, but specifically Steve Martin. He is absolutely hilarious.
You lolled at him.
Can't help it. It's just so funny. But like even Martin Shaw, they just do such a good job, and I'm so pleased to see like two guys who have been amazing comedians for so long are like doing such a good job in the twilight of their career, and getting a really good run of it over a long set of series, even if the crimes and the way that they're sort of linked together and stuff are a bit dumb. What do you think about all the famous cameos that are in it? Do you like them?
Yeah.
Do you think that some of them go a bit far? I didn't expect.
Well, no, I'm going to be honest. You're saying all of them. I'm now actually thinking...
You're like, who?
I don't think I've noticed.
No, but so I'm specifically meaning I didn't expect Meryl Streep to be in it as much as she is.
I forgot she was in it. Yeah.
And I didn't expect Paul Rudd to be in it as much as he is as well. Yeah. And I think that it's probably getting to the point where it's grating on me a little bit because I don't think they're very good characters, and if they'd have just stuck to one series, but them both being in two series. And even if they are just sort of like side characters, they're really annoying me right now, and I kind of don't want them in it. I just want the central trio, really.
I've forgotten they were in it.
And Howard can stay also.
Yeah.
Like he's like the best. But that's just our little bit on. I guess I can't think of anything else to say about Only Murders in the Building.
Nope.
Out of all those ones that we described, then. So we've got Only Murders in the Building. You probably have a bit of recency bias as well, though. Death in Paradise, Jonathan Creek, and Ludwig, out of all the TV shows we've described so far. I know that you feel like Jonathan Creek maybe has a bit of staying power, which is good, but what do you think you've got the most excited for?
Death in Paradise.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. I thought that might be the case, but...
It brightens up your January, even though it's about death. It's the hot, sunny, jolly music, like familiar characters.
I mean, I'm not going to try and crush your spirits here, but the reason they're doing spin-offs now is because they're definitely probably going to end it after this series, right? But you've still got hopefully the spin-offs will be good, and then you have something. You can just sing the theme tune to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was kind of it. No. Okay, fine.
You were singing the Heartbeat theme tune.
It's the same show. It's the same show. Effectively, it's the same show. So, that brings us to our last murder mystery game. And this is a very recent game. Say very recent, from 2022. And I've already spoke about it on the podcast before a little bit. I didn't review it or anything at the time, but it was a game that I think it's possibly the best point-and-click game that I've ever played. It's called Pentiment, which that means that, like, I think it means a fraction of a masterpiece or something like that. So, and it'll make sense why in a second. So the synopsis. So this game is a historical mystery role-playing game that focuses on character development, highly stylized art, and choice-driven storytelling in early 16th century Germany. The main character is a clever illustrator caught up in a series of grisly murders at Kearsau Abbey over 25 years. This character alone possesses the wits and the will to expose the killers, but each decision he makes has lasting consequences and inexorably draws him closer to the centre of underlying conspiracy.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you the rating. Marvellous medieval mystery game is violent and a bit raunchy.
Ooh.
So yeah,
Sounds good.
Yeah, that is. I don't need to say much more about it than that. Really, it's very clever and it's very dense in terms of it does a great job, and this is why I love it. It does a great job of carrying all that history with it. Like it's a fully believable story that you could imagine. If someone said to you, "Oh, this is a really famous story that that happened in history," you would go, "Yep, that's fine," because they do such a good job of dressing it up that way. It is beautiful to look at, and all the characters that you get involved with, and also the main characters as well, they're all so well fleshed out, and the only movement you really do is kind of on linear lines around this village, but you go up to the abbey, and over the time as well, over 25 years, the village changes so much in the people and also how it actually physically looks as well. It's absolutely brilliant, and I think it's about 15 hours playing this game, and I want none of that time back. It was just wonderful, and even though I know what the main payoff of the story is now, there are different ways that you can get there, and actually at the end there's a few different circumstances for people in terms of how it works out. Like, so I think there's an example would be that you can stop someone being hung by the community because they think that they've done the murders and stuff, and it's kind of your sort of sway in town meeting where you go, oh, actually I think this guy did it, and maybe at one point you're doing it because you think actually he's done it, or maybe you're thinking, I don't know if he has or hasn't done it, but actually he's a bad guy, so does it really matter? I think he maybe is involved in a bad way and stuff. So there's loads of different ways that you can skin the cat. You still get to the same sort of ending, but different people can live or die from it as well.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so that's my kind of gambit really in terms of what I sort of think of those games and what I've played over the years. So I'm just going to go over the titles again, and which one do you think? And I get that some of it is coloured by the fact that you don't like violence and you hate scary stuff, but at the same time, which of these do you think? So again, we'll go in the order that we started them with. So there's Overboard from 2021, there is Heavy Rain from 2010, LA Noire from 2011, we've got The Wolf Among Us from 2014, and Pentiment from 2022. Okay. If you had to pick one of those games to play tomorrow, I'm not going to make you, don't worry, but if you did, which one do you think you'd pick and why?
Oh, I'd pick that Overboard one. I've instantly forgotten all of their names. The one that you said that I wouldn't like, that sounded awful.
Oh, A Heavy Rain?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough, yeah.
The one with the fairy tale characters.
Yeah, The Wolf Among Us.
That sounded okay.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit long though. I did like the short aspect of the Overboard one.
The one that lasted 17 minutes on, and that was still
also there was
still too long.
There was nothing like graphic or like it was.
It was a little bit raunchy. You get with Anders, the commander.
Well, I didn't do that because I had a nap, didn't I?
Oh, you had a nap, instead of initiating any sexual stuff.
So. Yeah, but the fairy tale ones I was the German one. That sounds good too. Yeah,
Pentiment. Yeah, I would say that out of all the games that I've played of this type, that was my favourite. I'd say that game is touching 10 out of 10. Like, as in, I think it's almost like
Have you ever given another game that?
Yeah. What did we give? I gave 10 out of 10 to Hotline Miami this year and Portal 2. Portal 2. You could play and you'd be fine with, although it does get a bit scary at points, Whereas Hotline Miami, you could not play. It's just hyper violence. It's all like sort of 8-bit graphics, so it's all you can't really tell what's going on, but you do squashing people's heads and stuff. So no, fair enough. The last thing I was going to ask about then, so this isn't to do with TV shows, is books that you read. You read the Thursday Murder Club book series. I know nothing about them. You don't really read that many books. That doesn't make you sound very clever. It's not. Yeah.
I'm not sure where to go with this.
So, but you do love reading those books.
I used to read a lot before I had children.
Digging me out of my hole.
Now when I start reading a book, my eyes just close. But I do like those books. Again, it's just fairly light-hearted murder, isn't it? And again, there's a mystery to solve. Fairly
light-hearted murder.
They remind me a little bit of the Number One Ladies Detective Agency books that I also used to read a lot of. Yeah. Which I'm not sure they involved murder. I don't think they ever involved murder, but they were like mysteries to solve.
Who are the protagonists of the Thursday Murder? I can't say it. Thursday Murder Book Club.
There's Joyce and Elizabeth.
Are they old people?
Yeah. They live in like an old people's village complex thing.
Sorry, that any Joyces out there? I was like, immediately, oh, old. Sorry, guys. Joyce is forever. Joyce is for choices.
Yeah, the whole point is that they are kind of retired. There's a retired nurse and a retired... I think she was like a spy.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
that sounds intriguing.
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you for your time. You couldn't really go anywhere. You were on the couch anyway, and I just nabbed you. But I think you did a really good job of going through some, listening to video games for a little bit. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully we'll have some normal service resuming soon with Rich as well, and you can have some more in-depth video game analysis like Sally just provided you there. She's smiling wryly. And we hope you enjoyed the podcast this week. Thanks very much. See you soon. You can say bye.
Oh, bye.
Bye.